This first trade is in the B period. We had just had the 10 o'clock news. I should have grabbed this earlier, as we come all the way down and hit that, see, we came right to that overnight low there at the orange line at the bottom, but it was just kind of too whiplashy. So this is the best I could do you can see on the 5 minute there, I was making those higher lows. And so I just grabbed it there. I thought we should continue rotating all the way through the profile, and I was also playing on the fact that I thought for sure this was the move that we were going to, take out that 6,000 in the RTH. We had already hit it. I think it was last week in the overnight, but I thought for sure they were going to give us the 6,000 here. So you can see I have an order there. I took the first order off right around at that 95 level when he popped through there. And that red highlighted area down there at the bottom, you can see how I have the pullbacks from yesterday highlighted. So I thought as long as we stayed above that, I was still thinking bullish. So like I said, I wanted to buy that O&L down there when we first swept down there, but because of the news, it was so quick. And I'm showing you this trade because this provides the context of the next trade that I took. And it's the whole idea of you can see how hard they're trying. Everybody's trying to get to that 6,000, right? It's an obvious level. So during this trade, I was, just thinking, everybody's trying to get there. It's such an obvious level, and they're just not going to give it to us. So you can see right up here, that move right there, I felt should have made it. That should have busted over the top. You can see that delta's pumping. There's no reason that we didn't go, in my mind, there's no reason why we didn't take out that 6,000. So right there, I was getting kind of suspicious of this. And I know that they, in those cases, or, a lot of times when they do this, they're trying to get this level, they're pushing so hard and somebody's selling into that and they just can't get there. So what they'll do is, come down and flush down through the bottom, and then shake everybody out of it. And then they'll start pushing and, they'll be able to take out that 6,000. So I was getting, when that C period went up there and kind of broke over the top, I should have closed it right there because I was already starting to think like, they're not going to give us this 6,000. They're just not going to let us have it. Not now anyways. So I will, close this in here. It's coming up. But like I said, I could just feel that they weren't going to let us. If you look at that delta, see how that delta is fading off there. People are losing enthusiasm about it. And like I said, so then I started immediately thinking about, that scenario. And I was looking for this. We got this higher low. We tried one more time to get up there in the next period. You can see, and you can see on the 5-minute chart, we made that lower high. So I took a chance on trying to catch this flush right here because I thought they would flush this all the way through down into that red zone, and also came into play right there with the, we made it right to the overnight low. So I thought there was a good chance we would flush through and at least take that out and kind of dip into that red highlighted area. So I just looked for that, like I said, the lower high. Then I was just monitoring this as we, cut through these different levels. You can kind of tell what's going on underneath. They're buying it because normally this would just kind of let go. And that's what I kept waiting for. And as long as they kept moving down, my whole plan was to get to that, to that lower level. So I set my first target right around or at 40 ticks. And that thicker red line that I just pointed out, that's an old value area high, a weekly value area high on my 4H chart. So I'm just monitoring that. You can see they come back and tested that one time. So I want to break that level. But if you look at the 5-minute, there's still, of course, my logos are over the delta, but you can see the delta's falling off. And we do keep making progress. But I keep it, like I said, I keep expecting it to just kind of, flush through there. And that is a sign to me, that there are people, they're still wanting to buy that up. So it's just too much of a fight, especially going back and watching this again. I probably should have taken one, right there when that level come down. But I was just determined that this flush was coming. So I started out with this trade, that I wanted the flush. So I was just going to play it out and see, what I could get out of it, if it was going to work out or not. There was no risk, right? Because I was already at break even. I brought that stop down quickly because, I'm still thinking that they want to take it to 6,000. So this could rip against me at any time. But, as long as we kept making progress, here's another push. You see that delta is starting to fall off there or continuing to fall off. And even though they're fighting it, we're still making progress. It's just not doing what I wanted it to do. It's just kind of that quick, totally fall apart move. Now you're just kind of tied up in the VWAP areas. So if you look at that move that came down prior to this, we did, you had the value area low down there. So whoever was trading that, that's obviously where they were buying it up at. But keep in mind that the people that bought there, they're not really getting anything out of that move, So if they bought at that value area low, now they're getting locked up in these VWAPs. There's definitely a struggle going on, both directions. If you look at that 5 minute, had me a little bit worried here because they're, see the higher lows that they're making. But I was thinking over a higher time frame. Yes, people are buying it here, but higher time frame, they were going to want to flush through here. I think right here would have been the perfect spot to add to this, but with that 6,000 hanging over my head, there was no way I was going to add to this. And then I did get the flush, and that hit my 40 tick target, and I thought for sure this is where it was going to go because this is what it looks like, and it would just I was given it extra room, and I thought this was just going to flush right through there, and then it comes all the way back to these VWAPs, and like I said, I was committed to getting this flush, and that right there made me think, you know, this is what I'm going to get, or it's happening. I just need to shake out some of these buyers. So I kept adjusting that stop because again, this is what I was committed to this, getting this flush with this contract. I already had the one contract off at the 40 ticks, so if this one made it, fine. If it didn't make it, and obviously I thought if we got down past this, you'll see that I'll start moving that stop down. But I really wanted to try to hold to get this flush that I keep talking about. It just made sense with that B period that come right to the overnight low like that. I thought for sure they would want to come down and take that out. So I think in any other case, uh, I wouldn't, I would have taken basically what I would normally do is let that when that 40 tick move happened, that first flush, that little flush there that took out my 40 ticks, I would have brought that stop down and not let it come back in to the value area. But because I was pretty sure that I was going to get the flush out of this, and then by the time, I stuck with it. And by the time I got back to the VWAPs there, then, there's no point in taking it here. I'd rather let it stop me out and be wrong than take the 10 ticks that it was going to give me. But then here, if you look at that 5 minute, see how we're starting to step down again. So right there, I was pretty confident I was at least going to get under that value area low again or get another shot at the value area low. Because even though they were pretty aggressive at coming out of there, they keep getting less as they're buying it at the lower end. They're getting less at the higher end there. And like I keep saying, this contract specifically was for the flush, so I just left it to see how far I could get with this. And looking at the 5 minute, and um, I felt like it was working. I wanted it to be in that one move, that one initial flush, but it just didn't work out that way. But I think also because it didn't do that all in one move, it didn't take that all out in one move. That is a sign because after this trade, there was a really good opportunity to take it long again and shoot for that 6,000 again, which they didn't get. And then there was actually another chance to do this same trade again. right here as it starts to break. And we're getting up there in ticks at this point. So I'm thinking about, like I said, if getting under that value area low again, I would bring that stop down like I normally would have in any other trade. You can see how it's interacting with that value area low right there, getting kind of that kickoff. And then right here, I move that target up because that dot line, the red dot line, is a settlement from yesterday. And the way that this was grinding, because it wasn't just totally flushing through there, I thought, you know what, this is, there's a chance that we would come down, maybe even hit that 980. So I was watching that level. And then, I thought there was a chance that it would bounce off that settlement. So I wanted to be ahead of that. Just the way this was fighting the whole way. There's testing you can't see the value area low, but it's under that that previous weekly VA high. So you see we had that, we retested that area. So I brought that stop down again to protect it from coming back into the value area. I figured I would take at least that much. And then I was just watching this as we went down through this 980. You can see it came right to it. But see, when it hits it, it's not, it's not taking off on me or, the other direction. So I was thinking about them buying it down here because that was my plan. And then when we pushed down there, I went ahead or it took me out right at my target there.